to another edition of Sukrit Talks. Today we're going to be talking about changing habits, something which we all aspire to do, whether it be, after a long night's sleep you wake up, you think, maybe I should do things differently today, or you talk to some of your friends, they say, maybe you should work on this, maybe you should work on that. We all want to change something about ourselves, and let's have a chat about that today. So today we're joined by Antonio, who is a fitness and lifestyle coach, and today we'll be discussing basically on this topic, and let's see where we can take this today. So Antonio, where did it all begin for you? Like, where did this kind of search for changing habits really start for you?
Sure. My journey started when I was quite young. So back when I was at school, started school, I actually didn't speak English. So
Okay.
when I went to school, there was a little bit of a, let's call it a cultural difference.
Right.
So I felt a need that I needed to start some martial arts. So actually the journey started for me when I was about 5 or 6 years old. And I learned very quickly about how to live discipline through habits and training.
So you kind of were exposed to a multicultural society, and that really gave you this urgency to kind of build new habits and kind of diversify yourself. Is that kind of more what you're trying to do?
I think that's a really key critical point, is that Australia is a very multicultural country, and me being probably from an immigrant group of people that came here, there was a sense that I needed to build more self-confidence. It was more about that. It wasn't so much about self-defense, more so. It was more about building the confidence in that, yeah.
Right, so that segues really well into the next thing I wanted to ask, which was, a lot of the time I found that changing habits, usually people try and change more kind of a physical habit.
Yes.
So maybe they decide, I want to lose maybe a bit of weight, maybe I want to live a more healthy lifestyle. But, as much as that's very important, how important do you feel it is to, and how important do you feel the link is between changing a habit and kind of becoming stronger mentally as a person? Like, what do you think the relationship is there?
Yeah, I believe very strongly in two particular things. The first is having a balanced lifestyle, and the second is understanding that it all comes back to always maintaining what it is that you need to do about yourself. And there are four elements. There's the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, and the mental. And you can't focus on one any more than another, because if you depend too much on one, another area will suffer. For example, if you're always reading and getting very intellectual, then your physical is going to suffer. So that's just one small example. So it's a matter of finding a balanced lifestyle, spending time equally in all four quadrants: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, finding that beautiful balance. And that's the key, is balancing all four, and then you're getting the best out of all of them.
Right, awesome, yeah. So, you're talking about balance. Like, how do you personally aspire to kind of keep that balance about yourself?
That's a great question. My aspirations is all about self-awareness. So I'm always very much reflecting on myself and feeling and sensing. So if I'm meditating, and when I meditate every single day, I'm able to get in touch with myself and say, what am I feeling like I need more of today or less of today? So if my body says I don't feel like training today because I'm tired, that's exactly what I'll do. And to be fair, I actually did that yesterday. I spent the whole day just working on my tasks for work, and I did not train. I purely only went for a swim to refresh myself, refresh my mind, and get ready for work, and that was it. So I'm very much about self-awareness and use meditation for that portal.
Awesome, yeah. So would you say that intuition is a very important aspect to that whole process?
Absolutely. Intuition is all about looking at this fact that we've got 5 senses that we know of. There's sight and hearing and taste, and of course then we've got touch and smell. But the 6th one, which is the hidden one, is the one that because all of those senses have become overstimulated, then that intuition or 6th sense, if I can use that, it almost gets hidden. Whereas the more we meditate, as an example, and become self-aware, we're heightening that intuition. So it's something that's very important to me, to find out about yourself, because the more you're at peace and authentic with yourself, the more you're going to be able to live a peaceful and happy life, and then that way you can affect others, influence others, and people will feel that beautiful energy as well.
Great, yeah, that's a very good point, yes. So, like, in terms of the, the journey to changing something about yourself, like, often I've found in my life as well that, I'll start trying to change something about myself. Maybe it goes well for a few days and then I drop off a little bit.
Yes.
And then it'll start again. So, in your experience, what have you found to be very helpful for you, or maybe a particular approach or attitude which you apply, such that when things aren't really going your way, how do you keep the motivation levels up? How do you keep the energy up?
Absolutely. It's a really good question. The first thing is you need to determine exactly what it is clearly that you want to focus on. Once you've determined that, then you will be able to have an accountability to that. So you've determined it, you've made that decision, and then you start your focus. What happens then is you need to start, it's almost like creating a mantra. So when I say mantra is you're stating it to yourself. So through the clarity of the determination, maybe through meditation, saying this is exactly what I want to change, then you create this mantra, which is you're repeating it to yourself. What I do is I actually go to my calendar or my diary and I put it in absolutely in there exactly what it is that I want to do day to day to change that. So for example, if I want to, this is probably a bit of a live example right now. If I want to read an extract every single day, I actually put it in my diary repetitively for 30 days. What happens is there's a reminder that comes up every single day, you've got to do this. So I go, right, it's come up, I need to do it. What happens is after a couple of days, you start to let go of that reminder. You don't need it because it's already starting to become a habit. So even though you've got it in for 30 days, it starts to become a habit very quickly. Although it does take 30 days. So if you repeat one single thing every single day for 30 days, that becomes a habit. And that's the powerful thing, is repetition. It's like, let's put it in the sense of the word drills. You look at someone who does martial arts, and I'll use that again as one of my live examples. How do you become good at that? You drill and drill and drill the same technique again and again and again, and it becomes second nature. And then the next thing you know, you're at a point where you don't even need to think about doing that technique. It just happens. The other thing is about with the installation of the habit, it's like a cable. So a cable is very, very strong when it's together, but it's made up of lots of little fine strings or small cables that make up that big bunch to make the cable really strong. Habits are exactly the same. You've got to keep at it. Those 30 days, one little habit at a time, making one change at a time, and becomes very strong. But the last thing is about, you need to go back to the determination of the clear habit you want to change. It's got to be like an anchor, because the only way you can maintain it, it's like an anchor holding a ship in the port. It has to be rock solid. So they're pretty much the strategies I use to ensure that I create a habit, drive a habit and drill the habit, and then instill it. Once it's instilled and installed, I maintain it going forward.
Awesome, yeah. That's a very, very great strategy, yeah. So, from the discussion that we just had, I think it's very clear that one thing that maybe we don't really focus on as much is that changing habits is a very mental picture, mental effort that comes into there. A lot of people say that focus is kind of a muscle that you can kind of flex and make stronger over time. Excuse me. Do you feel that that's something that you agree with? Like, do you feel that, after maybe, if over a 6-month period, if for 2 months you've kind of conquered one thing, do you feel that it really gives you does it really increase your focus to the point where you are able to kind of jump to the next thing with a lot more confidence?
Absolutely. When you take, for example, in lifestyle, with lifestyle management, it's made up of those 4 elements that I mentioned, which is physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. But if we just take the physical element, for example, there are 2 basic habits that we need to instill. The first is we've got to keep moving. And when I say moving is walking, we've got to pick things up, we've got to sweep the floor. They're all natural things that we do, natural movements. We have to stay subtle and nimble as we get older. So as we get older, we have to stay nice and nimble. And of course, yoga is fantastic for that. So that's one element that you can put there. But the other component to lifestyle management is about ensuring that you're eating well. So for example, with nutrition, you will look at a recipe to cook something. You'll be overwhelmed because you've never seen it before. But once you apply the recipe and you've cooked the meal, there's focus and concentration going on just for you to put that meal together. So that is the way that you can practice your mind and drill your mind into taking step by step, which is that cable concept, step by step, slowly putting the ingredients together, cooking a meal, which is a good meal. You need to make sure it's good food, and then you eat that. I can guarantee that the next time you go to cook that meal, you'll need to refer to the recipe less, because your mind is able to focus on what is the outcome that I need here. I've got my ingredients, what's the outcome? The third time you go to cook it, you'll almost do it without looking at the recipe. By the fourth time, you'll probably be doing it by eye, just adding things in and going by feel, and you'll feel it. And there's that intuition coming out again. You can actually get a sense as to how many. I cooked a beautiful sausage curry last night, and I actually measured the paprika, the cumin, the Keen's curry powder, and there was one other spice which just slipped my mind just then, with beautiful coconut milk and everything, and I did it all by feel. And the reason why I did that is because I have before done recipes, but now I'm at the point where I've done it so many times that now I no longer need to refer to the recipe. I do it by feel. When I ate that meal last night, it was fantastic, and not because I'm saying so. Even my partner said, this is just exceptional. So that's the power of taking something that might be step by step, working it, reworking it, drilling it to the point where it's second nature. Then you can express yourself naturally, which is a matter of putting that recipe together with your natural feeling, your natural intuition. That is the power of being able to take this concept of mind concentration and apply it to one task. And if you apply that concentration to one task and you train your brain to do that, the power of the outcome is absolutely remarkable.
Great, yeah. So just to wrap up, I just wanted to ask, like, for the people out there who are kind of feeling a little down, like, they're feeling like, I'm not really getting to where I need to.
Yes.
I'm experiencing failure. What advice do you have for those people? Like, we're all kind of going through our own journey in life. We all have our own struggles. So, what advice do you have for the people out there who are kind of, really finding it tough to face the next day?
Absolutely. That is a great question. We've seen many leaders in many years, over many centuries, go through very, very big struggles. Whether it be someone like Gandhi, whether it was Nelson Mandela, whether it was somebody like Abraham Lincoln, who spent, I believe it was 6 or 7 times he went for president and got knocked back every single time. He finally got up to presidency in his 60s. He never ever gave up. One thing that he extracted was, every time I failed, it gave me more strength. Myself personally, my father passed away a few days after I turned 18. I had 2 choices, to fall or to rise, and I chose to rise. And the reason I made that choice was because I realized he left me a legacy to live by. And he always used to say to me, don't let people step on your stomach. And I didn't quite get it until he passed away. Then I understood what he meant, was believe in yourself and do whatever you believe is right for you. With good intentions, always get a good outcome. So with regards to, using the term failure, failure is only where you learn about what the gaps are that you need to improve. So if you do an exam of some sorts, you may fail that exam. It's actually okay, because once you do that, what's going to happen is it's going to tell you what you need to go out and improve. So even if you look at it in terms of a recipe, you cook a recipe, it doesn't taste so great, that's okay. What did I miss out? What did I do wrong? Go back to the recipe, start again. You start that process again. So failure is a very strong word, because I like to use areas of opportunity. So the first thing is, in meditation and self-awareness, you're going to find out what you're good at. So you're going to find out all of your strengths. What your job is to do is, through the failings, is to find out what are the gaps. And those gaps are called areas of opportunity. And instead of looking at those and letting them affect you and getting you down, what you do is you say, I need to strengthen in this area. And you go out and you do that, whether it be reading a book, whether it be researching on the internet some information, it might be that. It might be finding data or people that are experts in that area, getting some advice, getting some pointers. So you always need to look at every single human being has got strengths, and that's where they thrive because it's natural for them and it's authentic to them, and that is where you can do things very easily and naturally. But when we're looking at things that we don't do naturally, they're usually things that are gaps, and they're the ones that you need to instill a new habit. So you can go out and find out, all right, I've just realized I'm not very good at typing on a computer, as one small example. It's more physical. But if that's the case, you need to take the first step, which is start typing more regularly. Once you do that, day after day, week after week, month after month, that's going to get better and stronger. And the next thing you know, after 30 days, for example, you're going to get to the point where then that becomes second nature, just like your strengths over here, which come naturally and easily.
Great. So just wanted to thank Antonio for joining us today. He's given us so much, such a great perspective on changing habits. And just to conclude, just wanted to say, everyone out there, as Antonio said, you got to back yourself. If you feel that one day hasn't gone well, that's okay. Next 7 days, go for it. And then, as Antonio said, within 30 days, you'll be somewhere that you never imagined. But just take it day by day and give it your best. So thanks for joining us today, and till next time, all the best.